There's this poem, it's by Keats, in which he talks about unraveling the rainbow. His point is, I think, that, one shouldn't try to explain the rainbow. It's a beautiful object. One should just appreciate its beauty. But in my experience, if you know more about something, you appreciate it more. And the rainbow is a particularly apposite case because it's absolutely fascinating what happens to form a rainbow. Lots of people sort of think they know how the rainbow is formed, but very few people actually do. It's a standard topic in high school textbooks, but what they say about it in high school textbooks does not explain why the rainbow is formed at all. It does explain why it's coloured, if it exists. I didn't realize I was ignorant about why the rainbow existed until one day I looked up in the sky and saw what was apparently a straight piece of rainbow. In fact, I was sitting inside and I thought it was a defect in the glass window I was looking through. And it wasn't. I moved to another window.
And saw the same effect.
Saw the same effect and thought, oh, well, this is the same batch of glass, probably. So I had to go outside. I went outside and looked up, and my God, there was a straight rainbow, apparently. And then a former student of mine, he was probably still my student at the time, came past. And I sort of pointed it out to him. And then John Nash, he came by and saw it. We assembled 3 witnesses. It turned out to be a sighting of what's called the third rainbow. When you have a raindrop falling in the sky, if a ray of sunlight enters it and bounces once, that's the first rainbow. If it bounces twice, that's the second rainbow. That gives the second rainbow. If it bounces 3 times, it's the third, and so on. I read about this a long time ago, at the age of, I don't know, I was a teenager probably, in a book called Teach Yourself Meteorology. And it said, the third and fourth rainbows are occasionally seen, but the fifth never.
And did it comment that the third is straight, or is it always straight?
No, it's got a very large radius. It's about 70 degrees, and it's about the sun, rather than about the counter-solar point, which the first and second are. And 70 degrees is quite close to 90 degrees. I mean, if you think of the Tropic of Cancer or Capricorn, it's nearly a great circle. And if you're looking from, so to speak, inside the Earth or something, a circle of radius 70 degrees looks straight, especially if you only see a portion of it. So that's what I saw. More modern books tell you that the third and fourth rainbows are never seen. And that's nonsense. The thing I saw was the fourth rainbow. I'm sorry, not the third. The third rainbow I saw later when I visited Lisbon. And by that time, I sort of understood a bit more about rainbows. And so I knew what I saw, which was quite amazing. The plane was flying towards the sun as it landed in Lisbon airport, and it went through some cloud. And just as it went through the cloud, I saw what looked like a left-hand parenthesis out of my window in rainbow colours. And now I knew enough to tell that was the third rainbow.
And are the first and second visible at the same time?
Yes, they're often visible. I've seen them a lot of times in Oregon, where some of my wife's relatives live, and it rains a lot. You often see both rainbows at once.
Growing up in the rainy northwest of England.
Yes, I used to see rainbows a lot. I saw an absolutely beautiful rainbow once I was staying in Hobart, Tasmania, and I suffer from insomnia, still do, but it was particularly bad at about this time. And I found that there was a coffee shop that opened at 6 a.m. in the town, and I was in some university apartment outside town, and I walked down into town every morning, and there's a mountain that overlooks Hobart, and it's always raining at the top of this mountain. It's really rather nice. And as I walked, the sun was behind me, so the rainbow was in front of me. And the rainbows, I usually saw double rainbows there. Absolutely beautiful. I mean, really lovely. And you see more of it because you don't normally see a rainbow at sunrise and even slightly before sunrise, or correspondingly at sunset. So, and you don't normally see them then somehow. Every morning I saw this rainbow. It was really rather nice. This pair of rainbows, I should say.
I wonder if you can give us the diagrams here.
I thought it was a defect in the glass, So I moved along to the next window in the corridor I was sitting in, and that glass appeared to have the same defect, so I thought it was from the same batch of glass. But when I stood up, it moved in the way that it would if it weren't a defect in the glass. But I wasn't sure. So eventually I went outside and looked up at the sky, and there was this straight piece of rainbow. And I had no idea what it was. I mean, I thought it was something, rainbow-like, because it looked rainbow-like, apart from the straightness. But then I realized that I did not know how the rainbow was formed. This is a little raindrop high in the sky, and there are lots of them, of course. And meanwhile, let's suppose the sun is over there, horizontal. And then the picture you see in the textbooks is this rainbow is refracted a bit, then reflected, and then refracted again. And so the net effect is, let me draw this raindrop very small, the net effect is the light comes out not quite opposite to where it went in, but at 41 degrees. The trouble is that isn't an explanation, because it's just not true. If you take this sunbeam here, it happens to hit straight on, it comes in, bounces, and goes straight back. And so we would see that piece of sunlight directly opposite to the sun, not at 41 degrees to the counter-solar point. But it depends where exactly the angle it's bounced through. It depends on how high up in terms of the radius the sunbeam hits it. And imagine that we shone some kind of beam horizontally, and then we moved it down steadily. What would happen to the emerging thing? And the answer is this. Suppose the counter-solar point is just there, then if this height that I'm mentioning is 0, which means it's hitting directly face on to the raindrop, it comes out at the counter-solar point. But then, as the height varies, it increases, and then it decreases again. And guess what this maximum angle is? 41 degrees. And in mathematics, we're quite accustomed to the fact that when a function turns round and has a maximum, then that maximum is also a stationary point. In other words, most things that come in at near the condition that leads to the maximum, emerge very near the maximum. Now I'm looking at the rainbow. This isn't the raindrop anymore. The one that hits straight on emerges there. Ones that hit
Close by to
fairly near straight on emerge in this little circle here, and so on. And then quite a lot of them emerge very near this thing, and then if they, then some of them emerge at the maximum, and then it starts decreasing again. And so what happens is there's a concentration of light near the maximum, and anything that bounces once inside comes out somewhere inside this disk, and a lot of it comes very near the perimeter of the disk, and that's the 41-degree thing.
And what about this fourth rainbow that you mentioned?
Sorry?
You mentioned you saw a fourth rainbow.
Yeah. Well, you see, if it might bounce more than once, bonk, 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 and emerge. If it bounces twice, the corresponding concentration happens at about 52 degrees. And so you see two rainbows quite often, one surrounding the other. I saw one quite recently. A double rainbow, they often call it. It's really two separate rainbows. And there's one thing that they do say in the books, which is that different colours emerge at different radii. And for the first rainbow, the red part emerges outside, and the blue part emerges just inside. These are the regions where, the concentration of colours happens. For the second rainbow, it's the reverse order. The red part arises inside, and the blue part outside. And by the way, the concentration effect, anything that hits, any sunbeam that hits the thing and bounces twice emerges outside this thing. And this gives rise to an effect that was noticed by Alexander of Porphyry, I think, in about 180 AD. This part of the sky between the two rainbows, look, when you see two rainbows again, is called Alexander's dark band, because the sky appears noticeably darker, because anything that hits a raindrop is taken out of this region and put either inside this circle if it bounces once, or outside the outer circle if it bounces twice. And theoretically, oh, by the way, that's quite interesting, because why isn't there, a question I've never seen asked by anybody else, why isn't there a zeroth rainbow, which is caused by things, which would be caused if it worked, by things that don't bounce at all inside. They're just refracted when they hit the surface first, then refracted again when they leave the raindrop. They're certainly bent through an angle. But the answer is that angle is just monotonic. It doesn't have a maximum or a minimum. So there's no particular thing at which the things are concentrated. But it can bounce 3 times or 4 times. And this apparently straight rainbow that I started by saying that I saw once was in fact a case of the 4th rainbow we worked out.
And you get that from the colour arrangement?
Well, yes. What happens is, let me redraw this picture a little bit. I have a mnemonic, which is, if the number is odd, the sun sees red. So you must remember that the sun is outside this circle. So it sees the red part. But if the number is divisible by 2, the sun sees blue. I believe in these mnemonics, by the way. They really do help you to remember things. So there's the second rainbow. Now the third rainbow is so big in these terms that it's actually on the same side of the sphere of directions as the sun is. That's one reason why you don't see it so often. So I've now seen all four rainbows. The fifth one is around the sun, and it's a very small circle around the sun, and so it's never been seen.